Hi all, good afternoon. Thank you for attending today's bilingual presentation, jointly held by Genealogy Society Singapore and My China Roots. A brief introduction about GSS. We were launched in July 2012 with the aim of establishing and providing a platform for everyone interested in genealogy and ancestry at studies to meet, interact, and exchange knowledge. We also hope to create greater awareness and interest in genealogy so as to promote the advancement of our multiracial, cross-cultural heritage, customs, and traditions. Our speakers today will be Huihan and Ying. Huihan is the founder and CEO of My China Roots. Born and raised in the Netherlands, Huihan has family in Indonesia and ancestors from China. Meanwhile, Ying is the research manager with family in Hong Kong, Singapore, and the Philippines. At the end of today's presentation, we will be having a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them out in the chat box and we will reply accordingly. Now let me do a brief introduction in Chinese. 大家下午好，很高兴大家能够出席今天由新加坡族谱学会和中华家脉共同举行的线上分享会。新加坡族谱学会成立于2012年7月，希望为关心宗族谱系、研究家族历史的各界人士们提供一个平台，让他们互相交流、分享心得，同时也希望提高公众对家族历史的认知与兴趣，借以推广我们多元种族、跨越不同文化的传统与习俗。今天的内容将会由李伟汉和洪宁颖共同呈现。伟汉是中华家脉的创始人与首席执行官，在荷兰出生长大，家人来自印尼，祖籍福建漳州，而宁颖是中华家脉的研究主管，祖籍福建南安，家人分布香港、新加坡与菲律宾等地。分享过后，我们将进行问答环节。若您有什么疑问的话，请在聊天室里留言，我们将在问答环节的时候回答。Without further ado, I shall now pass the time over to Huihan. Huihan, please.
Thank you, Xuanjian, and welcome everybody. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here with all of you. I'd also like to thank President Ng from the GSS and also especially KK for taking the initiative to lead the setting up of the workshop today. So as Xuanjian was already mentioning, my background is I'm Dutch. My family came from Indonesia and 6 generations ago from China. Maybe we can go to the next slide. So a couple sentences on my China roots, and actually just as a I was asked to do most of the presentation in English and then to do short summaries in Chinese. So bear with me, I'll try to do just that, and I hope that will go well. But a couple of sentences on my China roots. We have 2 key types of services. One is custom research services, and that's what Ying will be talking about in just a few minutes. And the second part is more about the online platform that we're launching this year, at which point I'll take over and give you a demonstration of the online platform. 那中华家脉就是2种主要的服务，一种是线下的定制的服务，研究和旅游服务。第2种是线上的一个网络平台。一会儿应会告诉你给您解释关于我们的那个线下的服务。我后来给你一个 demonstration 关于我们的网络平台。Next slide, please. So as Ying, next slide, please. So as Xuanjin was mentioning, I was born and raised in the Netherlands, and I was always very close to my grandfather, and he always used to tell me stories about where we were from in Indonesia. But as I grew up, and I grew up in attending very Dutch schools, which was always wonderful, but I was also very curious. Why are we at home not speaking any Chinese? Why don't we really know anybody in China? Why does nobody really know when our ancestors left China? Those types of questions. On the bottom half of the slide, you can see my parents, and then next to that, in the middle, my grandparents, and next to that, my great-grandparents' weddings. my parents' wedding is in Holland, then in Indonesia, and then actually my great-grandparents' wedding was also in Indonesia, because it was already 6-7 generations ago that they left. So it was out of this curiosity that I moved to China in 2004, started working in consulting, and my background is in law. And it was a hobby really to do my own family history research. And as that progressed, and I noticed what it did to me, to my family, as well as to people that I was sharing my findings with, the idea came up to do this full time. And that's how my China roots got started. 那我在荷兰出生长大，然后我的父母、爷爷奶奶都在印度尼西亚出生的。然后我长大的时候，我一直对我们的家庭历史比较好奇，那没有人可以告诉我，就是我们什么时候从中国，然后什么时候和为什么移民到印尼，然后为什么移民从印度尼西亚移民到荷兰了。所以这个好奇让我2004年是第一次来中国，我目前也在北京。在中国的时候先开始学中文，然后我在一个顾问公司工作过。那个时候就是我的爱好，就是开始做关于我们的家庭历史的研究，然后这个研究就是让我最终建立 My China Roots 中华家脉。So now I'd like to hand over the microphone to Ying, who will introduce herself and a bit about her family history.
Hello everyone, my name is Hong Ying. So I'm the research manager at My China Roots. So yeah, I've been working at My China Roots for over 4 years. I was born in Hong Kong, but my origin was actually in Nan'an, Quanzhou. So that's why I can speak fluent Cantonese and some basic Hokkien. Yeah, and also as Xuanjin said, I have families in Philippines and Singapore because my great-grandfather went to Philippines for living before, and then his 2 brothers went to Singapore. So that's why we still have a very close connection with the descendants of our Singapore relatives. So yeah, this is kind of the basic introduction about myself. So next, I'm going to introduce our customer service, our traditional way of research. So let's move on. Yeah, so let me introduce our research team first. So we have 4 researchers all based in Guangzhou, and then they all speak Cantonese. Our research success rate is about 80%. So what we usually do is that we will send people to the village to collect information and data and see what traces are left there. And then once we get the data, we will compile all the findings and adding all like historical backgrounds, like introducing local history and Chinese history to like give some context to our clients. And then if they are interested, we will arrange a road trip for them. 对，就是我们的研究团队都是驻扎在广州，就是有4个研究员。那我们研究的成功率从2012年到现在大概就是80%左右。我们经常会做，就是我们会派我们的研究员就去村子里面去看还有什么线索在那边，就比如说还有没有祠堂啊、族谱这些。那回来的话，我们会加一些历史的背景，就方便我们的客户来了解，就是自己的家族历史。那通常可能会结合国史和家史这样。那如果客户感兴趣，我们还会给他们就是安排他们回来，然后跟家人团聚这样。Okay, so next I'm going to introduce more about our customer service, how we did our research offline. So yeah, in general, there are 5 steps about doing the research. So first step will be like gathering clues at home. And then next step, so the first step is always done by the clients because they have to gather clues at home. And then we can locate a village, reach out to village, visit, and then build a family website. So let's talk about more about the first step. So in order for us to start the research, we have two important things that help us start the research. So the first one is the name of the ancestors. So ideally in Chinese characters, but if you don't have the Chinese characters, that is fine. You can just give us like Romanized letters. That will be fine too. So the other one is the name of the place where they come from in China. So the more detail, the better. As you know, like China is very big and then the population is very large. So if you can give us more detailed information, that will help us start the research easily. 对，那主要的话，我们要开展研究的话，就是比较两个重要的线索。对，就是第一就是祖先的名字，那最好就是中文名。那如果你没有的话那也没有关系，就是英文名也可以。那另外就是那个祖籍地，就是越详细越好。比如说最好就是到村，那如果没有的话到镇或者县都可以。So next, I'm going to give you an example about Mr. Ronnie Tan Kun Xiong's case. So Mr. Ronnie is the honorary treasurer of GSS. So he has provided us the ancestors' Chinese name and then like 3 ancestral villages in Zhangzhou. So with these 2 key information, we can start the research. So once we got the information, then we have to start to locate the village. 就是我们拿到线索以后，我们就要开始就是找这个祖籍地现在还存不存在。So for your information, these are the administrative level of the China level now. So the highest level is the province, then city, and then county or district, and then town or sub-district, then administrative village, and then village. 那现在你看到就是中国现在的那个行政区划，对，就是最高就是省，然后就是市，那可能下面就是县或者区，镇或者街道，然后行政村、自然村。So with Mr. Ronnie Tan's case, so we now have 3 addresses, all in Zhangzhou, Haicheng County. So this leaves us questions. So are these 3 addresses refer to 3 different places, or are they all point to one place? So this is what our research team has to figure out first. So after we have done some research for Mr. Ronnie Tan, we have found out that the place's name has changed. So the Haicheng County was changed to Longhai District, and then Liutianbao changed to Fugongbao, and then Fugong Town, and then Bakenjia to Baken Village, Niuyuanshe to Niuweicun. So the answer for the questions about is that it is still the same place, but they are in different names in different times. So currently, the address should be Zhangzhou市龙海区福宫镇八坑村牛尾村. So this is the address that we found online. We also have one way to confirm whether this is the correct village. Since Mr. Ronnie Tan's surname is Tan, so we also find out that this village in Zhangzhou is also a Tan clan village, which means the whole clan, the surname of the whole clan is Tan. So we can cross-check that, oh, this should be the correct village. 对，然后就是我们在做那个网络研究的时候，就发现，就是其实Ronnie Tan 先生的那些地名其实有变化，就是原来的海城县现在变成龙海区，就是龙海区就是龙溪县和海城县的结合，所以现在就是海城县的地方就是基本上就是龙海区。那还有那个刘田堡，它就变成那个福宫堡，那最后就现在就变成福宫镇。那八坑甲就变成八坑村，牛园社变成牛围村，所以就经过我们的那个研究，发现其实它不是3个不同的地址，它还是同一个地方，只是不同时期它有不同的地名。 So yeah, I also include a map here. So you can see this is the Zhangzhou city, and then the Longhai district. And then this is Mr. Ronnie Tan's ancestral village. So you can see the challenges for this step of research is the names, especially the jurisdictions. So like sometimes we have received different names or different addresses. So what we need to do is to find out whether the village still exists or whether the names have been changed. So this is I think the biggest challenge for this step. And then there are also another challenge is the no-code place's name is not recorded in official records like gazetteers. So you can see that Mr. Ronnie Tan's address, they include some mountains name. So that could be the mountains that the local people used to call, but it is not recorded in official records. So yeah, this is also the case. 对，那这个最重要的挑战就是地名的变化，就尤其是在那个 Ronnie Tan 先生的这个 case 里面就比较明显，因为他给了我们3个地址，所以我们最终就是要确认它到底是3个地方还是1个地方，那它现在地名变成什么？对，那另外有一个问题就是它可能有一些土名，就是比如说只有当地人才这么叫，但是其实它不会记录在官方的记录里面。那这个也是会遇到的情况。So once we have located a village, so what we did before is all like online research, like we search information on the internet or research the gazetteer. But now we have to like reach out to the village to confirm whether Mr. Ronnie Tan's ancestor is from that village. So next step, we are going to reach out to village. 对，就是上一步的话，我们主要都是通过网络研究，或者是我们查阅一些地方志，然后就发现这个村子现在的地名是这样。但实际上我们还是需要就是联系这个村子，然后看就是这个村子是不是Ronnie Tan 先生的祖先的村子这样。So yeah, so next step we are going to reach out to village. But you know, like the village contact information is not just shown online, like because like in general, village contact information, like they don't have a village office inside the village. So which means the contact information is usually the contact information of the village leader, the mobile phone number. So they are not going to put the mobile phone number online because there is some privacy reason. So what we usually do is we start with the 3 institutions. So the first one can be the town or district government office. And then second one is overseas Chinese affair office, and then local clan associations. So these 3 institutions are the 3 institutions we usually start with. But yeah, sometimes we can start with other institutions, but these are the 3 that we usually do. 对，那就是这个村子的联系方式呢，就是在中国它不会说有一个村子办公室在村子里面，那因为村子都比较小，所以可能就是只有村长的联系方式。那村长联系方式一般就是村长的手机号，那它不会直接放上网，所以我们通常就是要联系镇政府或者是侨联，或者是当地的中青会，然后通过他们，然后我们才可能说找到那个村长的联系方式，然后再跟他解释这个寻根的事情。So yeah, the challenge for this step is that how to search for the right contact information. You know, like as I said, the village leaders' contact information is not going to be online. So we have to reach out to different institutions, and then there will be like back and forth, and then whether they are willing to help, whether they trust us. So whether they are willing to share the contact information to us. So this is the challenge for this step. Also, I mentioned that the trust problem. Yeah, because we are asking for the contact information, which is quite related to privacy. So how can we build trust with them? Like how can they trust us that we are actually helping overseas Chinese to find their village. So yeah, and you know, like most of the overseas Chinese are from Guangdong province or Fujian province. So as for Guangdong province, because it is like kind of more well developed, so and they welcome like overseas Chinese to come back, like to have a look at the ancestral village. So they are more willing to help and they are more cooperative. And also our researchers do like speak Cantonese, so it is not that a problem in Guangdong province. However, in Fujian province, it seems like they are more conservative and like more like protect their clan. So sometimes they are not that cooperative. But anyway, we will find a way out. Yeah, so 对，就是这个挑战的话，就是我们怎么能够找到正确的联系方式，就是因为很多人他可能就是我们需要怎么联系到这些机构，然后让他们相信我们，就是我们的确就是在为华侨寻根，然后就是想帮他就是找到祖籍地。那这个就是会有很多来来回回，他可能不合作，他可能不想帮忙，然后就是会有这样各样的问题，所以就是怎么会找到正确的联系方式，这个是就是这个阶段的挑战。那当然还有信任问题，还有语言的问题，但是因为我们都比较有经验，所以就是我们还是会找到办法来解决这些。So next step is that once we reach out the village and then we found out, oh, this is your ancestor village, we have to pay a visit to the village to see what traces are left there. You know, China is not like the Western countries, which has like archives or libraries to save all the records. You know, all the private or family related records are saved in the village. So if you want to see what traces are left there, you need to like visit the village and see records are still kept there. So what we usually look for are the relatives, ancestral house where your ancestors used to live, and then clan temples. So clan temples is kind of a temple for the whole clan. So if they have some like celebration or other important things to do, they will do it in the clan temples. And also Zupu or Jiapu, graves, stories like about your ancestors or about your family, and records like maybe a letter or a portrait or a donation record, that kind of things. So these are the items that we are going to look for when we pay a visit to the village. 那如果我们下村的话，就是刚才也说了，就是一般的那个 records 它是会保存在村子里面，它不会保存在什么档案馆或者图书馆。所以就是当我们下村的时候，我们有几个重要的点需要看的，就是亲戚、祖屋、祠堂，那还有族谱或者家谱了，然后还有族谱祖坟故事和一些关于你祖先的记录。Yeah. So the left side is about the portraits that we found in the ancestral house, and then the right side is the grave that we used to visit. And then this is the Zupu. So if the village, there is a Zupu inside the village, what we will do is to cross-check the names in Zupu. So we need to see the names that our clients provided, whether it is recorded in the Zupu. So for your information, Zupu is like kind of a family history book, but it is not just about your family, but also about the clan. So it will show the lineage, including your family and the clan, and then also maybe the migration history of the clan, or maybe the how you get this surname about this clan, like this kind of information. So Zupu is very important written records. So if we can find out the name, your ancestor name in the Zupu, so it will be like definitely that your ancestor is come from this village. 那如果就是村子里面有族谱的话，那我们最重要做的就是看，就是你祖先的名字有没有在这个族谱里面。因为族谱它不仅是记录家庭信息，它是记录整个宗族的信息，就会它会显示整个世系表这样。那如果比如说你的祖先的名字真的记录在这个族谱里面的话，那就基本上就是100%确定你的祖先就是来自于这个村子。对。So yeah, the challenges for the fourth step is that as you know, like we need to travel to the village, so distance, time, and money are usually the cost for my China roots. And the other two are the lost Zupu or urbanization. The lost Zupu, as you know, there were like cultural revolution in the 1960s in China, so which means that a lot of Zupus were destroyed during that period. And also, like if the villagers they don't keep the record properly, it can be destroyed by flood or fire, etc., etc. So like Zupu, yeah, it's very important, but in some village they are just gone. Yeah, so that's why like my China roots has been collecting Zupus in Guangdong and Fujian provinces to preserve the records. And then yeah, my colleague Huihan will introduce that more. And then the final challenge is the urbanization. It is because China is developing so fast now. So yeah, if there is urbanization inside the village, so it means your village will be gone. So that is quite a pity that because all the traces will be gone. So no family house and no Zupu or no family temple, etc. So yes, that is why my China roots always encourage people to like start your family history research as soon as possible because China is developing so fast. 对，那对于这个第4步我们要下村的这个挑战，就当然就是因为我们要亲自去这个村子，那当然距离、时间、金钱就是对于 My China Roots 来说就是就是一个成本的问题。那当然就是族谱的话，还有就是它可能会不见。就是因为1966年左右就是有文革，就中国，所以就是那段时期其实是很多族谱都被销毁。那还有当然就是除去文革这个问题，就是有的村民他可能不太在乎族谱这个东西，那有可能就是他没有保管好，就有的时候就可能发大水啊，或者是火灾啊，这种就是族谱就可能就没了。那现在最大的问题，其实我个人觉得就是这个中国的城镇化发展。那比如像深圳啊，然后东莞啊，或者是广州这些地方，就是比较发达的城市，就是它城镇化发展非常快，就是可能不到1-2年，就是你的村子就会被拆掉。那这个我觉得是比较遗憾，就是就是村子起码现在你还能看到原貌，然后你可以看到里面有族谱啊，然后有祠堂，就是你能想象就是你的祖先当年生活在这个村子的样子。但如果它有城镇化发展的话，就是它可能所有的变成高楼大厦，然后你完全就看不到一个是村子的样子。然后我觉得这个是比较遗憾。所以这个是为什么中华家脉经常就是鼓励大家就是尽早的就是做这个家族历史研究，因为如果就是不尽早做的话，就是中国城镇化发展太快，就很容易就这些村子啊或者是遗迹都会没有。So next step, once we have visited the village, we have collected all the data. We will need to compile all the information and all the findings inside a family website. Yes, My China Roots does build a family website for our clients. So it is a website for your own, and then you can save all the data there. So yeah, let me show you the video. Okay, so yeah, I have just shown you the family website, like how it works. So this is kind of the introduction of our customer service, our traditional way of how we do research. So next, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Huihan, who will be introducing our online platform using a new way with the technology. So Huihan.
Thanks, Ying. I think there was a bit of a technical issue and we didn't see, or at least I didn't see the website demo, but we can do that after I'm done talking, maybe during the Q&A. So yeah, let me tell you all a bit about the online platform. Ying just basically mentioned what we do, what we can do on the ground with our people, our researchers manually. This year, we're very excited to launch the online side of things. And the goal is really to empower the millions of Chinese overseas to start their own research themselves. Because as Ying mentioned, among the challenges are, of course, it's not cheap. One needs time, especially to travel. And another element really important for us is cultural heritage preservation. So the issue she mentioned of urbanization, industrialization, a lot of the sources and villages are getting lost. So we have quite a few villages that we helped our customers visit and in the past, say 5, 6, 7 years ago, that are literally gone today, torn to the ground, no more. So in order to at least let our cultural heritage live on virtually, we feel very strongly about taking pictures, taking video footage, and preserving all these invaluable family history traces, at least online. So to start off, our key, the sources that we're after, at least this year, are Zupu. So that Ying also gave an introduction to what those clan books or family books are. We just launched our cemetery records search database and search system. Next year or later this year, we'll also be adding gazetteers, and next year, probably also altar tablets, remittance letters, and other valuable sources with family history information on them. So let me, if we can go to the next slide. So just like Ying was discussing examples of what we can do on a customary basis, we're using the case of Mr. Ronnie Tam. I'm going to do a similar thing with the online side of things for GSS's own committee member, Ms. Sheng Huiling, who is also a researcher. And the information that she gave us at the start, which is pretty representative for the type of information that we always ask for, and people that have slightly more information already. That information that she gave us is that her grand uncle was named Chen Xinzheng, so that's his last name and his surname, first name, and he was also known as Wenpu. So he had two names that he was known by. Was born in a village called Lindou in the province of Fujian, Xiamen, Sining, Heshan. So with those two data points, we basically start the search of Ms. Sheng Huiling. 我现在给你们看一下，就是我们的网络平台。生女士就是 GSS 的一个 committee member， 把一些基本的信息给我们，就是他的祖先那个大舅公的名字和祖籍地，他的出生地方。If Ying, you can allow me to, you can stop sharing, then I'll go. So I'm now going to basically show you how Ms. Sheng could go through our platform to start her research. So I mentioned she has the name of her grand uncle. So what she can do is go straight to search records for ancestors. And this particular tool is the key tool that I would say sets us apart from any other online platform or Zupu database that is currently in existence. And that is that this tool allows you to search directly for the name of your ancestor. So there are quite a few platforms out there that have Zupus online, and you can search for those Zupus and you can find the book. But if you then have the name, you still need probably hours to, and you need to be able to read Chinese to sift through each of those pages to actually find the name and what page that is on. If you're unlucky, it's on page 947, and it will take you a few days. In this case, Ms. Sheng can just go ahead and type in the surname of her ancestor, the first name, and the birthplace. China being a very large country, as we all know, the village, there are quite a few Lingdo villages. Fortunately, she had more information, and here we can see Siming, Xiamen. That was actually the sort of the hierarchy, the administrative jurisdiction that Lingdo falls under. So we know the place, we found it in our database, and we can click search. And bingo! What used to take maybe, well, what took me about 5 years, to be honest, in terms of finding my family history in Zupu and finding ancestral villages, just took us all together, what was it, 10 seconds? So here we have the Zupu of the grand uncle of Miss Sheng Huiling. And you can see here pages that the name is to be found on, Xinzheng. So you can, of course, go to each page to check on the pages and see what is written on it. Here, so I click the page, and in all likeliness, because we had the village and we had the personal name of her grand uncle, it's very likely that this is the right plan book. But Chen being a very common name, China being a large country, etc., you can never be completely sure. So then you need to check, in order to be sure, is this really Miss Sheng's grand uncle? What other information was there that we can cross-check? And one other bit of information was that her grand uncle was known by another name, Wen Tu. And here, you can actually see that here, Yuan Ming Wen Tu. You can see here that the name that he was also known by is Wen Tu. So this is, now it's just really clear that this is the Zupu, and this is the picture of Miss Sheng's grand uncle. Especially for non-Chinese readers, there's a tool you can see here. As I hover my mouse over characters at the bottom of the page, you can see the translations and the transliterations. You can also just do the whole translation in one go. If you want to have the page translated, you can click here and get a whole overview of what it says on the page. And yeah, what would be, so basically this is a key step in having found your ancestral history in a book. Now, what can you do then next? As Ying already mentioned, a typical Zupu contains a lot of information. Family trees, ancestral biographies, migration histories, and you see those outlined here. And I'm forgetting to summarize in Chinese, so I'll discuss how to deal with the content in a bit. 我刚才给你们示范了就是我们的搜索的系统。刚才用了盛女士的大舅公的名字，姓名字和她的出生地方，然后出了那个填了那个信息以后，直接能找到那个在族谱里面能找到那个名字，那个祖先。Okay, so going back to the Zupu content. So even if you take just the family tree part and the names and dates and biographies of famous ancestors, that type of content, you can already make a lineage. And that's one of the things that our platform allows you to do. And you can see an example here. This is a paternal straight line going back 1500 years. So you see these names, these are names of fathers of fathers of fathers of fathers. This column is the birth year or approximate birth year, and this column is the generation number. So generation number 44, his father 43, etc., etc. And then, of course, with each name, you have information that was provided by the Zupu. So here, you can go back many generations. The first generation in this particular instance was the first ancestor that set foot in Guangdong, in the province of Guangdong, around 800, so Tang Dynasty. And you can go all the way back 1500 years, depending on how far the Zupu goes back. So you may have noticed here are blue, well, they're links, they're hyperlinks. And this leads us to another section of our platform that I really see as one of the magical parts, in that what happens if you not just take the content of a Zupu, but if you combine it with other source materials. I already mentioned there are cemetery records that we're now also having, and in another part of our website, you can actually search for your ancestors' names on tombstones in the exact same way that I just showed on the Zupu. But if you add cemetery records, if you add gazetteers, local county government maintained encyclopedias about that location, if you combine all of that information and more together, you can really build a little time machine and see what life was like in the time of your ancestors. And this is an example of such a little time machine as we see it. So this is what you're seeing now is a 1600-year chronology of, in this case, the Zhang clan from Kaiping in Guangdong, and starting off with migration, sort of 1500-year migration within China. And on the left-hand side, you see a timeline, essentially. And the timeline discusses the past 1500 years. And what makes it special is that it combines the personal history taken from the Zupu with the local history taken from gazetteers, and the regional history or national global history taken from academic articles and even Wikipedia and the like. So what we do here is, you can see, you can click on certain links and they give you explanations about who the second Tang Dynasty emperor was, and it discusses it all alongside the history of the ancestors of, in this case, the customer himself. So Tang Dynasty, it goes to Ming and Qing transitions, etc. 这种的信息就是，如果我们把族谱里面的内容和地方志的内容和一些坟墓信息如果我们把那种的信息结合在一起的话，我们可以就是建立一个 time machine 之类的，就是按照你的祖先的生活生命，然后那个地方志里面的信息，我们可以看一下那个当时的生活怎么样。So next, so far, this information is mostly all information that My China Roots uploads and that you as a user could search for. The next step is if you want to combine it with information that you already have. And this brings us to family trees and basically building your own private family museum for the sake of next generations, and to, of course, figure out if you can learn more when you share that with your aunt or uncle or cousin, because maybe they can add information to all that you found in our database too. So this is it's essentially a standard family tree. How it works, maybe if you're familiar with gene.com or ancestry.com, it is not that different, but the key difference is that it's made for people with Chinese heritage. So for instance, one key recurring frustration is that a lot of Chinese, as we just saw with Chen Xinzheng and Chen Wentu, two names for one person. So this allows you to enter a generation name or a nickname or a paper name, which especially in the case of Chinese Americans happened a lot. You can basically add all those variations and then build your family tree together with your whole family. You can add pictures, and for each of those pictures, you can tag them. So what are the people, who are the people in those pictures? What is the place that is relevant? The date of my grandparents' wedding, descriptions, and basically all that information that you tag will then be linked to the data that we have in our database. So if you add a name to a family tree of your great-great-great grandfather, our system will immediately search, oh, do we have that name on a tombstone? Or do we have that name in a Zupu? And that's how you can basically build and build and build and build. So I think one last thing I'd like to say is Ms. Sheng had actually quite good information to give us. She had the name in Chinese characters of her granduncle, and she had the name of the village in Chinese. Many people don't have that information, and many people have to start with less. Partly this is where Ying and her team comes in with the manual services, but partly this is also what we're trying to do with our online platform. So for instance, if you have, just take a very simple example, Chen is the Mandarin pronunciation of this surname, but in many cases, it is actually spelled as Tang, especially in Singapore or Malaysia. So if you don't know the character, what do? So you can, our system allows you to just type in TAN, and then you get some general information. And importantly, we show you the characters that have historically been Romanized as TAN. And you can just click on a couple of the variations. And the most important thing is that we outline what and why and how this particular character has been Romanized as TAN. And we give variations, like in Cantonese, it's also been Romanized as Chan, Zhen, Qin, Chen, Tan. And by looking at this list of these variations, you can then see, oh yeah, I actually have distant relatives, and they did spell their name not as Tan, but as Chen or Qing or Tang or whatever it is. So that's how you can then basically find out what the character is of your surname. You can also do other things like view the ancestral locations that have a high density of Tan, Chen clan members in Guangdong or in Fujian. You can check what records we have in our database that are all for the surname of Chen. And that's one way. Another way is if you don't have an ancestral name, but you only have a place name, then you can just look for, start with places. A challenge here is that people don't have Chinese characters. And not only that, they sometimes don't have the actual current names. Like Amoy is a name that is often mentioned, but it's actually not a current name. Amoy was just what current day Xiamen used to be known as by foreigners mostly. So our database would then recognize, okay, Amoy, that's actually today Xiamen City. And then you can go from Xiamen City, you can either explore using interactive maps, or you can see what Zupus we have for Xiamen City. You can explore what districts there are in Xiamen City, and then you can sort of funnel your way down. So I think I'll stop it here, because I've shown the most important things, and I'd like to hand it over to Shenzhen for the Q&A.
Okay, hang on, huh?
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Huihan and Ying. So before we begin our Q&A session, we'd like to take a group photograph first. So if you don't mind, please open your cameras. 感谢Huihan和宁宁的呈现。那在我们开始问答环节之前，大家如果方便的话，请把摄像头打开，我们来拍一张合照。Okay, I will take a screenshot now. So now I'll take a screenshot of the the first group of people first. So 1, 2, 3, smile, everyone. Okay, hang on. Sorry, again, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, for the second group of people, 1, 2, 3, smile. And finally, our third group. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thanks. So now we will begin our Q&A session. So you can type your questions in the chat box or you can unmute your microphone to ask. 问答环节现在开始，大家可以在聊天室里留言，或者直接把麦克风打开，直接发问。
Shunjin, maybe a quick request or suggestion, because I actually, there were a couple of, while we're waiting for people to come up with questions, you can actually show 1 or 2 more slides.
Oh yeah.
One is about basically with GSS, because we have, we're starting a collaboration with Genealogy Society Singapore. Just wanted to mention that for all the life members of GSS, there's a standard 15% discount on all the services that My China Roots has to offer, online or offline. So that's, I just like to put that out there. And in general, if any other people outside GSS or inside GSS are interested in collaborating, we're always looking for partners and friends who can help us either with data. And for instance, we're, like I mentioned, we're of course digitizing Zupu cemetery records, but we're also really looking to digitize clan association membership records, other type of, it could be passenger shipping lists, could be remittance letters, could be altar tablets, basically anybody with access to certain sources that they're interested in preserving online. We'd love to hear from you and work with you. And then in general, if people are interested in either indexing or in conducting research, we'd also love to hear from them.
Okay. So, we already have 3 questions. So firstly from Baksha, does the website have pronunciation for the words in different dialects?
Great question. Love that question. And the reason why I love it is because that is upcoming. So it's not, so for the surnames, we do have different spellings of different dialects. So Minanhua, Hokkien, or Standard Cantonese, or other variations of Cantonese or Hakka. This is a very big challenge with respect to first names, but I'm very happy to say that we have our eyes on we're basically building a database of first name Romanized variations according to dialect. So next year, definitely you'll be able to put in a first name in any Romanized form, so written in letters, and you haven't used any dialects, and then we will be able to help you find the characters for that name.
Okay. Thank you, Huihan. We have a second question from GK. So GK is asking, hi, I would like to know where people with a surname such as Kim would likely come from in China.
Well, we can do, when we do a direct, because basically, so that the question there is, what is the character, right? And a live demonstration of the surname from Kin. Did you just say, well, how is the spelling of the surname you just mentioned?
Kim. Okay. M for
Maria, like Okay. Like
Yes.
Korean Jin, yeah, it's often Jin, right? But it's so basically these are the characters that have historically been Romanized into KIM. So yeah, Jin, I think many of the Koreans are but you can then click on any of these and basically draw. You can then read about the history and how it came to be that it got into KIM. So here you can see the surname pronunciation by dialect. If you have a Hokkien Southern Fujianese background, then well, Zhou would typically be turned into this. And Kim. So here's Kim, Hawaii. Yeah, so this is basically then for people to look for, to search for, to go through themselves, right? What is the dialect that their migrating ancestor spoke, and what is the emigration destination that the migrating ancestor went to? And if you combine the language, so the dialect, the original dialect, and the language spoken in the emigration destination, then you can basically deduce, and you can filter down the options for this particular, yeah, for KIM and all the different characters that are possible. Is that, I hope that was clear.
Okay, yes, we have another question, a good question from Yoji, who asks, can you elaborate on the official records?
Elaborate on the official records. Sorry, what do you mean with official records? Like government maintained records, or what in the eyes of the questioner is an official record?
What kind of official records from government offices?
So, okay, sorry, what is the question? So what official records do we have in a database, or what kind of official records exist? So I'm just trying to get the question right.
Sorry, okay, in the meantime, let us visit another question from Baksha. Okay. So Baksha asks, how private is the family tree information on the website?
How, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Baksha asks,
yeah.
Hang on. How private is the family tree information on the website?
Yeah,
sorry.
Great question. So the data that you input as a user is completely private. So everybody has their own user account that is password protected, and you can set it to public, but by default it is set on private. So nobody, unless nobody that doesn't have your password, can read that information. The information on Zupus, basically the issue is most of these Zupus are often online already. So the Zupus themselves are not private, but they are behind either a registration or a payment wall, so that they're not fully public and free. And especially what we're looking into now is we're generally, we want to omit, sort of not put online, the names of living people. So basically, Zupus, of course, goes back many hundreds of years. So the historical part will be available and accessible. But then when it comes to the later generations, that's where it becomes more private.
So similarly, Quet asks, who owns these family data once it's uploaded?
Right. So most of the Zupus online that we have online, and we have currently, well, close to 10,000, are older than 70 years, at which point any copyright, well, copyright didn't exist back then, but even if it would, basically every document becomes public domain after 70 years. And these Zupus are their clan documents, right? So there's even the legal ownership situation is rather gray, because there are many of these and they would be passed down among the sons, who would basically could use it upon their discretion. So some so the first answer is most of them, they don't have any copyright or legal ownership attached to them at all. If they have been published in the last like 10 or 20 years by typically by a clan association, then that clan association holds the copyright typically.
Okay.
Can I ask the questions, please, Huihan?
Yeah. Hey, Philip.
Yeah, Huihan. Usually, sometimes when they go to find the ancestors record, they go up to the progenitor of the ancestors village, but they know that particular lines comes from another someone further up. Do you do research for people who want to connect up the progenitor to earlier progenitor?
Yes, we do. We definitely do. And that is, so we've so far have been doing that manually, like Ying's team can do that. So we can then sort of see how we can link it into earlier or longer branches going into the past. So that's a clear yes. What we're working on now is also to do that online. So to have basically what we're looking into is how to extract relationships between the names in the Zupus, and how we can then, of course, connect the different family trees of different books and then combine them into a world tree. So in this will also, I would say, a year, but in a year from now, we will be able to, our platform will be able to show the connected family trees of different Zupus.
Another question is, Huihan, you said you are keeping records for graves and things like that. Are you interested to collect? So let's say in the Chinese newspaper in Malaysia, they got obituaries that shows that actually for some obituary will show their ancestor village and certain records. Are you interested to record those as well?
Yes, again, a full-throated yes. We are interested in any record that has information about people, preferably if it is linked, if a name of a person is linked to either a location, and that could be in Malaysia or it could be ancestral location in China, and even better with dates. But any trace, any document that has information about people, about individuals on them, yes, we're interested in digitizing those. And the way we often work with private collectors is either, so they basically open the doors to their collection. We take care of the equipment, we take care of the people, and all they have to do is open the doors, and then we do all the work. And then, of course, both parties receive the digital images.
I've been collecting every day whatever it is showed in the Chinese newspaper in Hsinchu here, the daily obituary. Do you want to have those records? I've been doing it for probably the last few months. Do you want to have?
Yes.
Yes, I've been doing it every day. When I open newspaper, the obituaries in the Chinese newspaper, sometimes in the English one as well. The Chinese one especially has the ancestors village and
of course, yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I think Ronnie has a question. He raised his hand. So Ronnie, would you like to ask?
Okay, let me just unmute first.
Oh no, now he's muted.
You can speak now, Mr. Tan.
Oh, I can speak now?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Let me just see. Okay, can you see me?
Yes.
You can, huh? Okay. In October 2019, I actually visited the village. All right. But the only thing I couldn't find was there was no family chupu. Probably was missing, or I do not know what happened. Okay. But we correctly identified the village that my ancestors came from. So the next thing to complete the whole picture is to find a chupu where I can trace my progenitor ancestor who came from that village in Haiting, which is now Long Hai. Okay, so probably I need help in just that area. Okay, thank you.
So I think this relates. Sorry, Huihan.
No, well, Ying, do you want to?
Yeah, so yeah, it seems that like the village it doesn't have Zupu, but it happens. So I think maybe if you are interested, you can send us more information to maybe my email, and then we can help you out, and then maybe like ask, because some of them they have sister village, like some of them they may have other village may have Zupu, may also cover your village, so that also happens. So yeah, but anyway, we need to have more information, so we will see how we can help you out.
Because I was told at the Changzhou Library that many of the people at my village have already dispersed to many other places in China, including Taiwan.
Yes. Yeah, that also happens. Sometimes they just bring the Zupu to Taiwan or maybe to Singapore. Yeah, you may not find that in China, but you can find it in other countries. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think this relates to some other questions that, for example, Christopher asked that place names have changed historically. So can we find these historical names listed on the website? And also another related message from Elijah, who asked that he couldn't find the village that his ancestors came from in Fujian, Putian.
Right. Yes, so our database is still in the process of being built in terms of acquiring data and historical place names. The short answer is, again, this is in the roadmap for 4 months, 4 months down the line. So we basically already have taken from gazetteers, county gazetteers, a very long list of how, historical place names basically, and which changed from what name to what name. So we already have a lot of this information. We're adding it to our location, our village database, these 4 months. So I would kindly ask to try again in 4 months, because then there will be more historical names that are searchable. And the other question was a place in Fujian. What was the place? Sorry, what was the question about the place?
Since I couldn't find anything about the place on the website. Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that it's work in progress and that it's definitely not complete. So I definitely do not want to give the impression that it is completely finished. We're collecting data every single day. So it could be, I mean, that's perfectly possible. I think the key thing to do is just send us the information that this person does have. Whether it's in letters or characters, just send it, and then we'll just take a look at it for free, and we can respond by email.
Okay. So Huihan, as you mentioned, My China Roots is currently collecting information about cemeteries as well. So I think we have a few comments asking if you research on tomb records, and also I think so Yoji provided shared a PDF of, I believe, Zhangzhou Chinese tombs in Indonesia. And also Mr. Ong, I think Mr. Ong Bang Yao also says that Singapore Federation of Chinese Clan Association and other associations may have these records relating to ancestral history. So is My China Roots working with them? So yeah.
Yes. So first of all, definitely cemetery records are of course crucial to genealogical research in general. So Raymond is on the call, so we've had discussions about Bukit Brown and making those more name searchable. So we're definitely working with different cemeteries in the US and in Southeast Asia, but we're always looking for more. So if there are specific cemeteries or specific associations that are either on the call here or that people know of, we very much would love to work with them.
Okay, so we have a few questions regarding the fees as well. So, for example, KK asks, how would My China Roots charge for customized research services? And also another question regarding what happens to the 20% unsuccessful searches. So how would the fee be charged in these cases?
So I'll respond by combining those two questions, because of course, when you start research, you never know how successful you're going to be. And particularly for that reason, we've designed a mechanism that lowers the risk, the financial risk on the side of the customer if we don't find anything. So what that means is there's a base fee, and that base fee is paid upfront, and that is typically around $850 US. So this covers costs of us traveling to the village, spending time researching, conducting interviews, taking video footage, etc., etc. But then on top of that, before the project starts, we list out very carefully what are the items that we will be looking for. So it could be a Zupu, could be the house where this person's grandfather was born, it could be an ancestral hall, tangible items that are, it's a binary question of whether we find it or not. So when we found it, we tick the box. Every item has a price tag, then a success fee price tag, and we basically tick boxes. So found that, didn't find that, didn't find that, oh, found that. So then 80%, so to get a bit more nuanced, 80% is usually defined by us as finding 3 or more traces, items. And in terms of a price, total price, if you're going to ask, okay, so what do people then typically end up with for a successful project? Typically, it's around 1,800, 15 to 1,800 US dollars. So including base fees and all success fees that people end up paying for research.
Okay, I have some questions regarding I believe the online family tree feature as well. So Ian Tam asked if we have a Zupu and would like to create a family tree with 6 generations on your site. So what kind of costs are we looking at, seeing that distant relatives would also need to access to update their family tree? And also Quet asks, does it mean that the private data uploaded will not be linked to the overarching family tree until 70 years later?
Okay, so 2 questions there, right? So uploading your own family tree is free, and you can do that. All you need to do is register, but that's free. So you can just set up your own account and fill in your family tree. Well, that's the first question. And the other question is the privacy. And again, if you upload your own data, user data, you are in control of that user data. So you, by default, nobody else will get to see it, and it won't be linked. It won't be linked into the world tree. So it won't be searchable for other people, unless you yourself as a user set it at public. This can be public info. So if you approve, then yes, we will take it up into the world tree, and then we can make it searchable for visible for other people. But if you don't do anything, the default position is user data is protected, and they have full control over who it's shared with or not.
Okay, I believe Huiling wants to ask a question. So Huiling, you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hi, hi, Huihan. Thanks for finding my 大舅公族谱. Now I understand that I can read this 族谱 on your website, and then how do you charge us when we read your materials?
Right. So at the moment, you can choose to either rent a Zupu for 7 days for, I believe, $10, or maybe it's a bit more than 10, but it's that range. If you are certain that it is yours, because that's for the user, so because maybe they want to browse through it first and they're not sure whether it is theirs. But if you are sure and you want to keep it, you want to save it onto your online platform, then it's $80 US.
If I'm not sure, is there a way that I can, how do I be sure if I don't read it? So once I can rent it for $10 first, right? To check
That's right.
and see whether it is the correct Zupu. Am I right saying that?
That is correct. That is right. And if you, yeah, no, that is right. And then on top of that, I think you're asking, how do I know if it is mine? Like, then
yes.
what we could do is we could schedule a call with you. So either Ying or one of her team members, researchers, can talk you through, can help you translate, can help you basically discover the meaning of all the characters, and then see what, and then especially if you have more information to verify it with, they can walk and talk you through. In your particular case, like I mentioned, because you gave two names of one individual in Chinese characters and you gave the village. I mean,
Yes.
that is for sure. That is your Zupu. So in your particular case, I'm very confident in saying it is your Dajiugong. In general, though, it's what I just mentioned. We'd love to help if people think, but they're not sure. I would recommend then scheduling a call with one of our researchers.
Okay. Thank you.
I have another question. Some of us have Zupu, which actually have certain commentaries, which is in the wooden one, which is in the classical Chinese. Do you provide translations from classical Chinese to normal Chinese or to English?
Both. I mean, typically we do it to English, but if you would like it in Chinese, then, or even if people want it in Spanish, then we would be working with partners to translate it into any other language. But yeah, our researchers read classical Chinese, so we can translate it to anything you want.
Typically, how much do you charge per page of classical Chinese to English?
Yeah, you might need to help me out, but I think, was it
they're based on the like the difficulty or the length of the Zupu, like how big it is, how many pages it is, and also how many you want to translate it. But basically, we are charging based on the Chinese characters. So yeah, it is
on average 19 cents, wasn't it? Or at least if you take an average of all those.
19 to 23 cents each Chinese character.
US dollar cents.
US dollar cents. Yes.
But you have to translate the whole passage, is it? All right.
Yeah. Depending on what you want to translate, like we will draft a like table content of all the whole Zupu, and then you can choose which part I'm interested, which part I'm not interested. Then we just translate the part that you're interested and charge for that.
And here it's similar to what Ms. Sheng was asking, at least the situation. If you have a big lump of text and you don't really know whether you want it all or maybe just a third, what I would recommend is maybe scheduling a call with one of our researchers so they can talk you through, okay, well, that section is about that. That section only consists of flowery language, and it's basically to be condensed in one sentence, which is also happens in Zupus because you have very descriptive flowery language. So if you're not sure if there's a large piece of text, I would suggest schedule a call, and it could be just half an hour or an hour. And then like financially, that will be work out better for you.
But in the ordinary Chinese, not the wooden word, the charge will be less, is it?
Yes. Yeah. So like you mentioned, and for instance, if there's punctuation or not, or the readability of the characters, there are a lot of variables that contribute to the effort that we need to put in to translate it. And if it's published within the last 10 years and it's in easily readable font, it has punctuation, that's a lot easier to do. So then the price goes down.
Also, I want to add that we are not just translating the original text. We will add some explanations and context to help our customers to understand the background and the Chinese, because sometimes they grew up in the West and they don't have much knowledge about the Chinese culture or Chinese custom. So we will add the like the Wikipedia or other stuff to help them understand the context.
Okay, due to time constraint, I will select some of the remaining questions. So from Don, Don asks, where do the Zupus found on your database come from? Which I think is an interesting question.
Yeah, so the majority of the Zupus on our database are from university libraries, museum collections, or private collections. That's probably 85%, and the other 15% is from what we've done over the last 10 years, really, going to villages and working with local governments and villagers to collect their Zupus and digitize those.
Okay. One more question from Xinliet, who asks, how might I find a missing relative, let's say an elder sister suspected to be in Shanghai? So what information will be needed to find, let's say, a missing relative?
Ying, do you want to take this?
I think that is like kind of similar to how to locate a village. Like you need to give us the Chinese name of your like elder sister, and like maybe the possible address in Shanghai, like because you suspect her in Shanghai, but do you like maybe her last residential address in Shanghai? And then yeah, we can like start from there, or maybe information like her birth year or like marriage year, like whom she married to, like this kind of basic information. That the more information, the better. So we can see how we can help you out. Yeah.
Just to add to this, because of course it'd be best if we can get the name in Chinese characters, a recent address in characters, and everything. However, we more than recognize that that's very often not the case, that people have that much information. So what we would suggest, so the first step is what Ying just described. Essentially, send us what you have, names of individuals and places, and then if it's not enough, we follow up with a call, because very often people, when we tell people just send us what you have, it's not really clear, and often through questions and answers on the call, people get triggered. Oh, I actually do have that information. Oh, or actually my uncle does have that information. But in order to find out what the particular situation is, that's just easier over a call. So again, I would then suggest to schedule a call with our researchers, and this is free. It's just we can do this especially for GSS members, free consultation calls where you walk us through what you have, and then we see, okay, is that enough? Well, who gave you this information? And then we're trained in asking the right questions, so that hopefully people get triggered into remembering more.
Yeah.
So one question from Kirin Chua, who asks, has my China roots ever come across surname lanterns, and what information do these lanterns tell? So so Shirin's family has surname lanterns dating back from when their great-grandfather first came to Singapore from Fujian, and it contains characters that they can read but not sure what its significance is. So do you know more about these surname lanterns?
We haven't had particular cases with surname lanterns. Maybe Ying, you know more, but not as I recall. And in terms of, yeah, again, I would say if you're willing to send over a picture, send it over together with the other information that you have, and then we can
Yeah.
look at it. Yeah, because you know, often characters might be readable, but they might be something about a description about the clan or a name of the whole. It could be different. Yeah, it could be all kinds of different information. So here I would suggest send over a picture of the lantern as well as peripheral information, like what else do you know about your family history, and then we can take a look again, and we can do that for free.
Okay, so I think we have to wrap up very soon. So I think we have one more question that I think would be of interest to many of us here. So Lian asks, how would my China root have access to Malaysian records, for example, cemetery, birth, or death registrations?
So, yeah, this goes back to my earlier point, is that we are very much looking for partners who have access to data. So far, we've been in touch with different institutions in Malaysia and some clan associations, and for instance, Philip Tan, who was on the call. So access, is the question more how have we gotten access to Malaysia-related records so far, or is the question whether we would be interested? I mean, in both cases, it's I guess it's through working with partners and an expanding network. And if this person has access to other data, we'd love to chat with her.
Yeah, also I have one point to add, like if you are looking for like records in Malaysia, we also have like researcher in Malaysia who can like help you like look for the records and maybe visit the cemetery. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have to wrap up for today. So Huihan and Ying, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah. Would you mind like let me share our demo of the field report, like
Yes,
because
please.
of the technical issue. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Sorry.
Well, and then while Ying is preparing, I just want to extend my thanks to the Genealogy Society Singapore. Again, Xuanjin, KK, definitely, President Ng, thank you so much for putting this together. And yeah, we'd love to do more. And we're very much looking forward to working more together and with your members.
Okay, yeah, so let me show you the report. Like once we have visited the village, we will compile all the information into this digital report. So let me share with you.
Yes, this is a standard documentation of a standard village visit where we ended up finding an ancestral hall, an ancestral house, distant relatives. So what that site showed was contact information of the distant relatives, pictures of the ancestral hall with commentary about what each plaque or lantern might be saying or symbolizing. So yeah, that's basically what we're working towards now, is also to make them more interactive and more dynamic with videos and films when we walk around the village. So basically we post those films or even live streams that you could then do. If you have a user account, we can go to your village and open our webcam on our smartphone, and walk and talk you through the village.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's all, I have to make an announcement before we end today's sharing session. So 2 announcements. For those participants who have indicated interest to be a member of GSS during the registration, we will send you details of the membership and the registration form. And for those who have indicated interest in getting help with researching their roots during the registration, we will also send you a questionnaire to gather more information. So please do check your emails over the weekend. In Chinese, 所以报名参加本次活动时，对加入新加坡族谱学会表示兴趣的出席者，我们将会把会员须知和入会申请表格电邮给你们。那同时，如果您曾表示在寻根方面需要帮助的话，我们也会将一份调查问卷电邮给你，以收集更多资料。所以请大家在这个周末留意一下自己的电子邮箱。Yeah, so that's about it. Thank you, Ying and Huihan, for today's presentation. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, everyone.